The scene begins in a desert, where we meet a man named Wyndham, a professional photographer. He arrives in the desert to capture photos of a solar eclipse, and by evening, he finishes taking all the pictures. As he prepares to leave, he notices a child crying. Nearby, Wyndham approaches the child and asks, "Why are you crying?" To which the child replies, "I'm lost." Hearing this, Wyndham calls out to the child and asks him to come along. However, the child walks in the opposite direction, saying his parents are waiting for him there. Reluctantly, Wyndham follows the child while trying to stop him, knowing there's no one in that direction. The child refuses to listen, forcing Wyndham to follow deeper into the desert. He attempts to physically stop the child, but the child continues ahead. Then, noticing a strange smile on the child's face, Wyndham panics and runs away. He realizes the child deliberately lured him into a trap. Attempting to return, Wyndham gets disoriented and loses his way. As night falls, he wanders aimlessly in the dark. In need of shelter from the cold, Wyndham stumbles upon a house. The house is situated below a mountain, accessible by a staircase. With no other options, he descends the stairs and enters the house, where he encounters a woman named Alina. Alina behaves oddly. She neither reacts to Wyndham's presence nor responds to him when spoken to. Wyndham explains his situation, saying, "I've lost my way, can I stay here for the night?" Alina remains silent, but later calls him to eat. Feeling uneasy, Wyndham sits to eat but doesn't touch the food. Alina shows him to a room for the night. Later, Wyndham sees her changing clothes before he falls asleep. The next morning, Wyndham wakes up and returns to the staircase, only to find it missing. Now the area is surrounded by tall, steep rocks, making it impossible to climb out without a ladder. Confused and worried, Wyndham confronts Alina, asking where the ladder is. She casually replies, "Those people must have removed it after you came." When Wyndham asks who those people are, Alina ignores him and resumes her work. Determined to escape, Wyndham uses a climbing hammer to scale the rocks. After climbing a short distance, he becomes exhausted and stops to rest. He suddenly hears children laughing above, and moments later, a severed goat's head falls from above, startling him. Losing his footing, Wyndham slips, falls to the ground and loses consciousness. When he regains consciousness that night, he finds the climbing hammer lodged in his leg. In pain and screaming, he attracts Alina's attention. Alina removes the hammer from his leg and helps him back into the house. The next morning, Wyndham questions Alina again, asking who is preventing him from leaving. Once more, Alina gives no response. Later, Wyndham spots a boy standing on the rock above and pleads for help, asking him to bring a rope. The boy tells Wyndham to wait and leaves to fetch a rope. After some time, the boy returns with the rope, throws it down and instructs Wyndham to climb up using it. Wyndham ties the rope around his waist and begins climbing up, while Alina watches silently from the window. As Wyndham reaches halfway, he starts feeling hopeful, thinking he will be saved, but this turns out to be an illusion. When he is midway, a group of children appears above, and one of them urinates on him while the others grab the rope. The children begin shaking the rope violently, causing Wyndham to call out to Alina for help. Alina eventually comes and asks the children to stop, but by that time, Wyndham's head hits a rock, rendering him unconscious. When Wyndham regains consciousness, he feels he may never escape and starts thinking Alina might also be trapped, making this place her home. To his surprise, the children do not harm them further. Instead, they provide food daily but prevent their escape. The next day, Wyndham tries to grow vegetables in the barren land to ensure food supply. While he works, a child named Lepus appears on the rock and asks what he is doing. Wyndham explains about growing vegetables, and Lepus expresses interest in learning how to do it. Sensing an opportunity, Wyndham tries to befriend Lepus, telling him he can teach him whenever he wants. Lepus throws a packet of chewing gum down to him and leaves. Later, Wyndham finds a ring and car key in the dirt, realizing others had been trapped here before him. That night, Wyndham drinks heavily, but when Alina tries to stop him, he scolds her. In response, Alina undresses, and despite trying to resist, Wyndham becomes intimate with her. The next day, Lepus visits Wyndham's garden and asks him to teach him gardening. Wyndham says he cannot teach him from such a distance, but promises to teach him if he helps him escape. Lepus nervously agrees, saying he will try when the others are not around, and Alina overhears their conversation. Another child overhears them as well, gets angry and drags Lepus away. During dinner that night, Alina reveals she is pregnant, which enrages Wyndham. He accuses her of seducing him, but Alina calmly says it is the fault of both. The next morning, Wyndham hears Alina crying and discovers Lepus's dead body hanging in the air. The children had killed Lepus for trying to help Wyndham, and Alina cries out, calling him her son. This reveals that Lepus was Alina's child, though how remains unclear. Enraged, Alina blames Wyndham for her son's death, calling him a murderer. She strikes him on the head with a stick, rendering him unconscious, and locks him in a cage. Wyndham is kept in the cage for 9 months, until Alina gives birth to her child. While in the cage, Wyndham's condition deteriorates, becoming almost animal-like. Though Alina provides food and water, she shows little concern for him despite him being the father of her child. One day, Wyndham spots a girl on a rock and tries to call for help, but the children kill her too. When Alina brings him food, Wyndham pleads for freedom or death, reminding her he is the father of her child. Alina coldly replies that he was just a tool for achieving her purpose and walks away. The next morning, Alina experiences labor pain and frees Wyndham, asking for his help. Alina gives birth to a daughter, and seeing her, Wyndham decides he might stay here after all. However, the children suddenly appear and slit Wyndham's throat, killing him. After his death, the children tell Alina, "Mother, we have done as you asked." It is revealed that all the children were Alina's, conceived with various men before Wyndham. As time passes, Alina tends to her daughter, declaring that she will take her place someday. In the final scene, Wyndham's lifeless body remains where he fell.